So I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome on in, you guys. We're doing the Paladins Bugcast with our friends. Today's episode is actually our community episode. So these are not numbered. These are a more laid back version of our usual episodes. So it's going to be more of a conversation. We'll be, live. We're live right now on Twitch. So we'll be talking with chat. I will also post this as a video on YouTube. So we will be posting not just our numbered episodes, but our community episodes as well. That way everyone can be a part of that. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you leave a like and comment as well of ideas that you would like us to cover that we haven't already or that aren't on the agenda. So today we're strictly just covering the recent April Fools game mode, the horse game mode, playing as a horse in the game. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to cover strategies in the game, which is like a very broad term because I think we wrote like so much stuff when we were discussing this in the meeting. We went down a rabbit hole, and then we're talking about game sense. So which one do you guys want to dive into first?
April Fools, if you don't mind.
Yes, I think that would be great because that
Definitely.
was a lot of fun. So who all got to actually play that game mode?
Me.
I got to
I
play
did.
it last minute. I was sad I missed it, but someone was like, "Oh, it's not just for the day. Like it was for I think that week, right? Or was it a couple days
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Yeah,
part that
they
I
did it
kind of
full.
disliked about it.
that you did or did not?"
I did not. I disliked the fact that kind of they made it last. I'm fine with them making it last long,
Hmm.
but it's the fact that they kind of made it last as though they acted as though it was going to be rushed and it was only going to be available for a day or two. And I disliked that part. I wish they would have been more open with how long it's going to last.
I can understand why that's because you have to think about it as a business sense, right? From a business outline. I get that from because I see both sides, right? It's like the Gucci symbol. Like I see both sides. So I understand that from them it was like, "Oh yeah, this is good marketing." But for us it's like, "Ew, no, that's cringe." Like you're indirectly lying. Well, you're lying. And it's like you're already in a bad place. Not necessarily a bad place, but like the community doesn't trust you already. You know what I mean? You're always going back on your word. So it's like we we already have a bad taste in our mouth, and that I can understand why you say that. I really do understand because I didn't look at it like that at
Yeah.
all, but I do understand that.
I I do have to say as well, saying that it wasn't going to be available in like casuals and such, and then making it available in casuals and such for the last 24
Yeah.
hours ish,
Yeah,
that was very disrespectful towards everyone. If you're
I
gonna
did
make
see that.
something,
Yeah.
like if you're gonna make something and not make it available in a certain place, don't change that for a limited time because it's April Fool's. April Fool's was a week ago. Keep it a week ago.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. And that I did not know the extent of that. I did see some chatter about it on Twitter, but because work's got me so caught up, I don't get to like really get into it. Cause like, girl, my 15-minute breaks, I'll be all up in the comments reading the tea. My ass be with a magnifying glass reading the comments, and
As
I
someone,
I didn't get to see. I didn't get to see all of it, but I did. I was curious about that. I didn't realize that it
uh,
was like that.
as someone who could play the horse in casuals during that moment, it was broken. In like a
Oh, it's
10-minute
so
game,
fast.
you could easily get like 90 to 120k damage.
What the hell? I didn't get to play it in
Most
casuals.
most kills, most like least deaths, most assists, most damage. It was broken.
Oh my god, I imagine so. And it's like I bet people who know a lot about the game exploited everything they know about the way
Oh, I
that the
was.
whole yeah, yeah. I know. I seen the clips
I
and I was
had
like, "Oh my
damage,
god."
everything.
Yeah. I it clicked for me. It took a while, but it clicked for me that I was like, "Okay, so Moji spit pretty much. If you know how to aim like your shit, you can do the same shit." And it was just like funny. If you know how to play Ray, you know how to move. It was just weird. Like it took me a minute to get it, but I only got to play with my friends. I didn't get to play it in casuals 'cause I think I had to work, and by the
Mm.
time that I wanted to play, it had already been gone.
If I remember correctly, it was Ray's like left click ability, then Androxus's punch,
Yeah.
then it was Nando's
Mm-hmm.
dash and Tiberius's jump.
Mm.
Yep.
You
I
Yeah.
could
got the extra
literally
move
go
too.
halfway across half of the maps in the game
Yeah.
within two
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah, and the fact that you could use invul and master writing to
Yeah.
invitations.
Yeah, I
But
discovered that
that
whenever we were
hard.
playing, remember, I was like freaking out because I was like, dude, I was like, you were like, I don't think it affects it. And I was like, dude, watch. And I bought it. And I was like, look. This is
It's
so
just so
funny.
disrespectful to
It
the
was.
casual community.
It was because especially there is a lot of casual players who do not sweat it like that. They don't it's not that they don't understand the concepts. They very well are aware of it because I remember I was like that. I only chose to become more knowledgeable so I could last in my games, literally so I could enjoy and like have a shot at people that were better than me. But people who don't choose to do that, I mean, they have every right to just it's a game. They have every right to want to just play and it be enjoyable. And so I do understand that. And I thank you for bringing that up because I did not look at it from that lens, but I'm glad that you did because I could see that. Anyone else have any thoughts
Trust
on that?
me,
Right.
I look through this game with a lens of just hatred at this point, so I know all the bad things.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah, we did
say,
do
as
custom
far
forest.
as
Yeah,
the
that's right.
update goes, I think overall it was a pretty cool update. I saw the video and I immediately was like, "Oh, haha,
Yeah.
April Fool! They would never actually do that." And then,
Yeah,
lo and
same.
behold, they actually did make that a character, and they made a game out of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, overall, I think the update was pretty cool. It was fun. It had its moment, but I still agree with a lot of us who said too is the fact that like they just kind of released it and just did things with it. They told the community this is what it's gonna be. They should have
Mhm.
stuck to that so that we could have, we had that moment. We could have, planned out for all that. I don't know, because I also did not get to play casuals,
Yeah.
because I didn't know that it actually moved over to be full casuals
I
until last
literally
week,
saw clips on
like
Twitter
2 or 3 days
and 2 days
later.
later. Exactly.
Yeah,
I didn't
like I didn't
see
get
it
the
real
notice until
time.
a couple days later, so I didn't actually get to play casuals either. So yeah, I think agreed, super. Yeah, they definitely should have been like upfront
Mhm.
with it from the start, like their game plan and stuck to it. Hey,
Hey,
it was a good
breasties.
thing if they maybe
Hey,
made those changes
Lich.
for the next year or
Hi.
something.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. Like
We're talking about
edited
the
maybe
horse
better for
thing.
next year.
Oh,
But
the
yeah,
horse thing.
Yeah, how do you,
oh,
Horse.
perfect. I didn't even
I was
know.
gonna say, Lich, how do you feel
Hello.
about that? Because Super was sharing a point of
Hey,
view that I actually I didn't get to see much of or understand because I didn't see it that way. And then they explained it, and I'm like, oh wow, I can understand. Because I was feeling a certain kind of way. Because if I would have known about it, I would have played. But I found out days later, so I thought that I was the only one. I didn't realize that that was like something they sneakily did. I didn't realize that.
yeah, they just
What
kind of
did
like,
they
oh, hey,
sneakily
by the
do?
way,
Within
they just kept
24
catching
hours of
up
the
that they were
event
doing for the
ending,
update.
they put it into casuals.
Oh,
They put
yeah.
horse
They
into
just
casuals
they
for the
made
last
many
like
changes
24
to it,
hours.
which
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Um, yeah, okay, well, for my overall view of the event was that I really liked it. I thought it was really cool, really funny, really silly. I think it got boring after about 5 minutes, but
Yeah.
I'm still happy that like it was like a short little April Fool's event. I think it was perfect for what it was, you know? Do I want to see
Right.
it again? Absolutely not. I don't know. I don't think it was that fun. I thought it was silly and goofy. Thought it was
Yeah.
fun for like half of a match, and then I was done. But yeah, no, that's a big problem I do have with Paladins is that like going off of the whole putting it into casuals without like telling what like if you're not active on Paladin's socials, you know nothing about what's going on with the state of the
Mhm.
game. You know absolutely nothing. Like in terms of just so many things happening, so many updates and whatnot happening, and then you get all these people on the Reddit going on like, "Why is this happening? Why is this?" Blah 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 blah. It's like a big thing was when they would in disconnected from Switch when they stopped doing Switch
Yeah.
support. There were
Shady was
so
a
many
Switch
people.
player. Shady's here right
There
now
were
in chat.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there were so many people like, why is it not loading up? What's going? They had no clue. There was no like, as far as I'm aware, there was no like in-game announcement. Like Paladins, they need
That's
to realize
so
that like
toxic.
people don't. Not everyone is like completely active on the socials. Some people just play the dang game. You know, it's like
Yeah.
so that's I do agree with like the horse thing being very irritating that they just kind of put into casuals without any mention or in-game notice. Like
Yeah.
they have a method to notify you about in-game stuff, so they need to make that they need to make use of that a lot more.
I
It was
agree.
kind of like a sort of switch up where it was just like, haha, April Fools, we're actually making it available. And it was just like, it was kind of disrespectful because
Like, give
April
us an
Fools
extra
was still
date.
a week ago.
Yeah.
April Fools was a week ago at that point. Leave
Yeah.
April Fools a week ago. April Fools is the 1st of April, not the
Mm-hmm.
31st of April.
Literally that
Like,
part.
leave it back then. Don't start doing April Fools halfway through and be
Yeah.
like, haha, well, it was April Fools. No.
All right. I don't see that Ray's like put anything besides the 3v3 raids. Do you have anything else that you want to include or how you felt about that? Did you feel any kind of way about that? Did you know about it? He's at work, I think, so he can't like speak because he says it's loud, but he is typing in the chat, so I'm just communicating with him through there. He is now officially a panel member as well, so we love
Love,
that.
love.
I love that.
Love,
Yeah.
love, love.
Also, the fact, okay, I will think, it was so funny with, while he's typing, it was so funny
Mhm.
with horse, so, like, none of the 5 cards that you could use for horse, like, just didn't work. I
Yeah.
thought that was actually so hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely, heartwarmingly hilarious. That was so funny that, like, only
Yeah.
one of the cards worked and it barely did
Once the
anything.
Yeah.
Dev Note does not work.
Yeah,
Ah!
And then there was, like, the it only works on non-horse characters, meanwhile, horse is only in a horse-only mode until, of course, you know.
Not
Okay,
really.
reasoning.
It's cool to me. It was a goofy game mode, and I enjoyed it while I had my chance to play. That's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I think
chill.
it was nice for what it was, but
Love that
still
it came. Glad it's gone.
Right.
Yeah. I guess I would have appreciated. I know that the cards thing was a little bit funny, but at the same time, it kind of wasn't because hee hee ha ha paladins. None of the cards usually work.
Right.
Um,
I mean,
I
he's not
I
wrong.
guess one thing I would have appreciated would have the sizing of the horse. I would have loved if that one would have worked.
Oh yeah.
Being
that
able to
would
have like a massive horse on your team and have like the
A
health
fucking
scale of that
Titan.
size, that would have been amazing.
That would have
Titan
been
horse,
funny.
that would have been.
Raid
And then you
boss
could have
battles.
switched
Let's
it to
do it.
like I think it's called Brody, the shark horse. It would have been amazing.
Oh yeah,
That
that's the one I
chef
was
mass-
running.
You could recreate Jaws. It would have been
Yeah.
amazing.
That would have actually been really funny. I like
someone
that.
was fucking us up in our custom games, and I was doing the da da.
Who was it? It was someone from
It was
chat.
you, Lit?
No, no, I remember. Okay, so he was a new viewer. It was the officer guy. Remember, officer?
Officer, yeah,
Officer
but it was
Mike?
just, like, that-
I don't remember what his name is. Is it Officer Mike? I think it was Officer Mike. He was funny. Like I liked him. He was funny. But okay, so that's covering pretty much the horror stuff. If you're watching this on YouTube and you have thoughts about it, leave comments and we'll readdress it on our next podcast because we will be going over the comments. Yes, slay. All right. So let's cover. Do you want to dive into strategies or game sense next?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, strategies is like an umbrella because I think the last time we brought this up in the meeting, we went on like a fangirl tangent about various strategies. So, how are we wanting to?
Do we want to talk about individual character strategies, or do we want to talk about like group synergy?
Because this
teamwork
is like a
strategies?
team game, let's cover team first, and I think champion after. I think that would make more sense.
Okay.
All right. So, why is Keep all tapping me? Fuck you. I'm taking notes as we talk. So let's cover
yeah.
the team stuff first. So team
Well,
strategies.
I think we have to bring up the queen of team synergy, that is Saris, you know, with her
Mhm.
ult, which is literally only useful if your team is there. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I just know, I don't know. It's just, you know,
Not
just
necessarily.
basic shit. What's up, Super?
Not necessarily. Sarisult can be useful if you're near the edge of a map.
Very
There are some solo moments where it can be very useful.
Chillboy
I think-
has perfected that.
Can we all agree the best feeling is when it's overtime and the enemy is on the point and you manage to yank them off the point and end the round with a Saris ult? That is I've done that once, and that is the best feeling ever.
I think
Yes.
for most champions, there is definitely a solo moment where you can use your ult,
Mhm.
and it depends on the circumstance.
Mhm.
For most, it's always a team. You should always be in a team when you ult,
Mhm.
but there are some specific circumstances where a solo ult can be a good thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
True. What do you think, Justin?
Agreed. I think, of course, like team strategies, like you got to be worried about your comp. Don't just like instant lock. If the whole team instant locks DPS, you're gonna have a rough time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there?
You need
Yeah.
to be
Let's talk
mindful of
about.
your comp. Like someone's got to soak up the damage. Someone's got to be replenishing the damage that's being done.
Yeah.
So like you don't have those two, like the structure really falls apart.
I will
Agreed.
say I've had the occasional game where it's like what 3 damages or support in a tank or something like that, and that
Mhm.
stuff can actually be really oppressive and fun, especially if you have the right mix of damage, because
Yeah.
that's something a lot of people don't consider. Because in casuals, usually it's a double damage comp. That's what I
Mhm.
run into most of the time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what people sometimes don't realize is that it's best to have a projectile damage in alongside a hit scan damage. You want to have both of
I
those.
Yeah.
Having two of
agree.
each doesn't usually work out too well, just because that way you can cover more counters. You
Variety
know?
damage, yeah.
Yep.
Let me see.
I would
I
agree.
walked away to do
Especially
something
if
at
you don't
work.
have any hit scan and they got a Drogo, so that's gonna be real rough to deal with.
Hmm. Hmm.
Things like that. Or a Willow flying around you.
Hmm. I don't.
Okay.
I don't have any like specific strategies I usually like to go. I will say, aside from just like being Nyx and like going with a good support, but like that kind of goes with anyone that has good healing. I will say, it feels nice when you're going like Nyx or Inara and you have a Genos, because then like all of that bonus rejuvenate that you get feels a
Mhm.
lot more impactful. Because otherwise, like on any other tank, it's really hard to get value from Genos's heals, in my opinion,
So.
because they're really weak. I actually just posted a meme about it, just like
Mhm.
I feel like I'm sorry, but Genos is a very weak in terms of healing output because he gets a lot of numbers, but it's not
Mhm.
very impactful throughout the game. He does like the burst is very very minimal, and it's just I don't know. It's kind of heal body. It doesn't really do a whole lot, and it's good for the squishies sometimes, but for the tank they really tend to falter
So I
unless
like
you get
Sorry,
like a
that
bunch
you
of
use
rejuve going
that.
on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
or can I just say, so I need to go and let my friend in because apparently they've been trying to get into the building for 20 minutes and no one's
Oh.
letting them in.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, it's really confusing. But Scythe or Lich knows how I feel about pretty much everything in this game. So for now, they can kind of speak on my behalf, but I should be
Sure.
back in like a few minutes.
No worries.
All right.
To summarize, Super doesn't like the game at all,
Yeah.
yet he plays it.
I gathered that. No, I do
Um,
agree with what you're saying, but what you said, Justin.
no, I was just gonna agree with all that too, honestly.
Yeah. Well, the way that I typed it as you were talking was the pairing items with champ duos, because I do remember we got excited about talking about that, because that should be like its own episode. 1 second.
Reasoning right now said that alt synergy is my favorite thing with team strats, alt combos. Yeah, I do agree. I think alt combos are kind of like the
Mhm.
biggest thing, but I do think like looking into how much more you can synergize with the entire kit. I don't know. I can't really think of any champions that specifically have like a lot of crazy good synergy besides like
Mhm.
one or two factors about it, which is really unfortunate. Um, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
I think there's like
I do have some scenarios where like it definitely is kind of like, oh my gosh, I love going this character with this character, but I can't think of any right now.
I
Yeah.
usually try to think of it like there's like what is it, setup ults, and then
Hmm.
there's
Mhm.
kill 'em ults.
Yeah, setup,
um, you usually want to
finisher, and
pair one of
execution.
each together, like
Hmm.
Saris and Betty, or
Hmm.
Anara and I don't know, Koga ult or something.
We had a lot of that
Omen,
last night when we
Saris,
were
Nyx.
playing. There was a lot
Omen,
of
Saris ult, yeah.
Saris Koga. There was
Hmm.
Saris
Hmm.
Omen. What was the other duo that we kept
Yeah,
running
Saris is one of the best
into?
ult energies. Just what we were
Where
saying
there was
earlier.
one that
Yeah.
was getting on my nerves. I think it was Nixon someone. Who the fuck was it? I can't remember because we got bodied by so many fucking people last night. But there was just a lot of like combos. I was like, God, there was one where I was playing Grover and I guess I was healing too good to where I got ulted by 4 people. And I was
Oh
like,
my
I
god.
was like, I'm just a tree. I don't even remember. But I was like, it was the Terminus. It was a fucking, I think a Betty.
Hmm.
Oh, who the fuck were the other two? There was someone else too. I think it was a Victor.
Hmm.
I don't remember who that last one was, but it was like some execute ults, and I was like, and I still survived somehow
Oh my
because I
gosh.
used my vine to get out of it. I think it was Shaolin also that was coming for because they
Mhm.
had like a multi damage team with like a tank, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm a tree, like, and we were playing Siege too, like a normal Siege game.
That I'm glad you brought up Terminus. That's my ones. A Terminus, movement speed build Terminus with a
Oh,
movement
speed
speed build
term is
IO
still good. Oh
with
yeah.
Oh
IO.
yeah,
Oh, I've done it
Speed
once and it is
term with
so
IO. I
wonderful.
actually haven't done that, and I
Rock can
have
do
a
it now
really
Oh.
too. It's
good
really
build for
really fun.
that. Speed
Yeah,
IO.
just go movement speed. I call my movement speed on IO. All my builds on IO are nicknamed after like dog things. So my movement speed one is go on walk.
Go on walk.
Yep. I have like Sikkim. I have just Bork heals, stuff like that. It's silly. So
Bork
no
heals.
ESA. I have ESA for like the one where like I'm just having Luna by my side at all times. That one's titled ESA. But no, like yeah, if you can like a current tournament that has like max stacks, max movement speed, go
Mm,
nimble, and then
mm.
IO max movement speed with the damage reduction, it's blissful. It's
Yeah, because
crazy.
stacks on terms damage reduction too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Damage reduction, I feel like, is something we could cover because there is so much versions of how you can apply it, but there's also a lot of useless stuff that people will often gravitate to just because it sounds good on paper, and then
Mhm.
they'll
Yeah,
run it, and it's like, eh. Because I think
like add too much
I'm trying to think of
finishing
what build I
rituals.
was making for a character that I ended up running and I didn't like it because I didn't feel like it did much. Like
Mhm.
it wasn't. Oh, I wish I could remember who it was.
Reasoning said Grok Totem, Nyx Shield, Genosmark movement speed buff. Okay, so I know Speed
Ooh,
Demon Grok is really fun, and then Nyx is Shield. Okay,
shield buff
but
on Nyx is
Genos
stinky.
Genosmark movement speed. I don't understand
I
that.
don't
Can
think
you?
Genos does any movement speed.
Yeah, I don't think you can buff someone's
I
movement
think
speed with.
he can buff his jump.
Yeah. Oh, are you saying like is Genos the one that would be buffed by all of that? That would make
Oh
sense.
my
I know with
god,
Cards to the Max, I had
imagine
some friends that
Genos
were like
swimming around
flying
with
in the
all those
air.
buffs.
Yeah. Well, if you have a double healer that has a movement speed to heal, like Io, I think Pip, and like you know what I mean, like or Ray, even Ray Genos,
Mm-hmm.
like her envelop constantly making Genos faster. And I mean, if you're a good Genos, you have a, you know what I mean. I could
Mm-hmm.
understand that. That could be stinky.
And speaking of Ray, the damage reduction, Ray's damage reduction heal card that like it gives like up to 5% damage reduction for a few seconds whenever you get hit by one of her
Mhm.
heals, and it
Mhm.
stacks, and it's like, oh my gosh, I think that is such a useless card. I'm sorry, but like 5% damage reduction, that maybe you'll get 10% damage reduction for a whole second with all the
Mhm.
stacks lining up. If the stars align, you'll get a whole
Exactly.
15% for like a second
If the
with the way it
stars
all lines up,
align,
you know?
Yeah, when
please.
It's
contract
just like,
parties people
oh boy, let's put
it's
5 points into
right.
this card. Like, oh no.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of lazily threw that in there. They could have definitely
Mm-hmm.
updated that. They need to update
Mm-hmm.
that card. Either replace it with something better or I don't know, like give us a little bit more. Now, I could understand why they don't want to make it too crazy because I
Mm-hmm.
Ray on release, if anyone remembers, she was nuts. Like I loved
Mm-hmm.
playing her. I still think about it because I used to pop like healing numbers were ridiculous. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember those days when she first was released. Like I was running the same build because it was ridiculous. I think I named it Milk Me because it was just like a
Oh.
nonstop healing build. Like it was ridiculous. It was terrible. But no, I feel like if they either increase it to where it scales better as you add more points to it, if that's going to be too OP, because there are some cards on some champs that are underrated that are like that. If scaled max, they are like ridiculous. And then if you
Mm-hmm.
like pair
Mm-hmm.
certain items with that, could be really stinky. But like with her, she has so much about her that used to be so broken that I feel like they're too scared to
Mm-hmm.
give her
Mm-hmm.
that extra. You know what I mean? Because think about how broken she could be if she could provide a damage or a really good flank or a really good tank that's aggressive with DR on someone like Anara who has ridiculous DR as is that they have trouble balancing. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
that. You know what I mean? Like I could understand why they're either too pussy to change it or they just haven't found a way to. I mean, I'm trying to think to myself how I could make that more balanced because I don't know, like even scaling it just a bit could be broken. Like there's just the potential's there for chaos.
If,
Mm-hmm.
I think if they did want
Also,
to buff that
super and
card,
reasoning
just
are back to
increase the
speak.
duration.
Oh, they're back to speak. Okay, hold on. Boop.
Okay, what was that reasoning, Tino?
Oh, I was just saying that I think if you did want to buff that little card from Ray, like just honestly increase the duration on it by a second or two. So that way
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of build the stacks. And again, you don't want it to be like a massive damage reduction. And the only time you really get value is if you're healing one person that you're standing like a
Mhm.
foot from, so that you can
Yeah,
get those
I agree.
bounces. Boop, 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 boop.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think make it non-stackable and make it go up to like maybe 8 or 10 for like
Mhm.
3 seconds upon getting healed, and just leave it at that, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And maybe it resets the duration if you get another heal. I think 8% damage reduction when getting healed for 3 seconds, and it resets upon getting another bounce. I think that would be fine
hmm
at max.
Okay. I mean, I
I could
get
get
that.
behind that
I
too.
could get
Yeah.
behind that, but again, if it would have to be, I don't know, they would have to make sure because you know how the community is. They're gonna find a way to amplify that.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. It's hard to balance a game that people, no matter what you do to these characters, will find a way to exploit how to
Yeah.
maximize it. And I mean, it it's what you're supposed to do. I mean, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
super
Especially
the
with how much
invite to join
customization's
y'all.
in the game too.
Oh yeah, I sent them the invite, but they have to accept it to speak. It says invite sent, so I think they have to accept it for them to be back on the stage.
Womp womp.
um, but is there anything else that we want to add to that? I mean, we pretty much covered a lot. I pretty much put down Sarasol comp consideration, variety of damage on the team, pairing items with champ duos, setup, finish, execution on speed turn with IO, damage reduction. I want to. What's that card on Ray that you mentioned? Do you remember the name?
No, I don't know the name of it. Uh-huh. Just raise healing damage reduction card.
I, I put healing slash DR card for Ray. Hashtag
Yep.
useless. Moving on. uh, so one thing I'm excited about getting into, and I'm glad we saved the best for last, is Ray's put don't flank. Hashtag flank no do. Oh, are you talking about with Ray?
Oh,
Was that a
honey, as a Ray main, I will if I'm going damage Ray,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
flanking. I am.
damage Ray is expected, but if you're healer, if you're solo healer Ray,
Yeah.
there's a lot
Although
of new
sometimes you can
players doing
finagle
that.
it.
Oh, fair.
You can finagle some things sometimes. You
Oh, I
can.
know. Oh, yes. With her, you can't. There's first. She's like the Zen of healers. You know what I
Very
mean?
scary.
Like
Yeah.
she can fucking get in and out of some shit. Like she's some make me sweat. Like she's some water for real. Cause the bitch, when I play her, I feel like I don't know, like, okay, who's seen Catwoman? Like, when she's in jail and she, like, gets out of the bars? Like, that's Ray. When Ray
Mm-hmm.
is in a tight situation, she can finagle her way through some shit. Because I know I have gotten out of, like, I have three damage, people chasing me on a siege, on fucking
Mm-hmm.
Serpent's,
Mm-hmm.
the dark one. Serpent's, what is that, Serpent's Beach?
Serpent Beach.
Dude, that fucking map I'll never forget as a Ray. I got away on 1 HP with
Oh my.
people chasing me because I'm like trying so hard to heal my fucking flank that's like way out there doing some hundred shit. I was like, bitch, you gonna survive. Everybody knows in my community I scream, survive, bitch. Like that's I need to put that on a t-shirt. Survive, bitch, because when I'm support, you're not dying unless I say so. Unless you're determined you need to die, then fine. But I mean, if you're a damage Ray, I would expect you to flank. That's what you're supposed to do. I think a lot of people confuse Ray. Ray is kind of confusing as a new player, and I think that she would deserve her own
Oh yeah.
episode to really break down what is truly healing and damage Ray. Because
Mm-hmm.
everyone's at odds. I've spoke to a lot of people about this. They all have different opinions on how to correctly play her. We do
Mm-hmm.
have uh, Super back. So Super, what is your stance
Yippee.
on that? On Ray?
Yes, I just got back. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Can you please
We're
go over it?
we're talking about Ray.
Ray.
Ray. Oh,
Damage
what
reduction, just
specifically about
opinions on
her?
her.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
This is This took me by surprise. Ray.
I know we just kind of like threw that in your face. Ray.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah,
basically,
we were
do
talking about her
you
Ray.
damage reduction. Oh,
go ahead? I was gonna say like what just covering what he just wrote, what Ray's put in there. He said don't flank, and I was like, oh, did you mean as damage or heals? And he's like, heals because a lot of new players that play Ray they don't understand how she works and will try to play damage flank Ray as a healer.
and
And
then we were just talking about the viability of her
On
damage
the-
reduction Healy bouncy card
mm-hmm.
and how it's not good.
See, this is what I think in terms of this. Keywords, the effects of them, useless. No one likes them. Being able to know which talents, especially for new players, are meant to be for healing and which are meant to be for damage. That
Mm-hmm.
part was amazing.
Yeah, I can
That
agree
part
with
should
that.
stay. The actual like
Yeah.
effects of keywords, they should go. The keywords themselves should be able to stay, and the community should get to vote on which is actually for damage and which is for like heals.
I mean,
Yeah, I
the
100%
vote was an
support that.
interesting idea, but I do think honestly though, like as long as it's just like a title and it doesn't actually affect anything, and like it doesn't matter how you play it,
Yeah,
yeah, I
Yeah,
yeah,
think then it
that's
doesn't
what I'm
matter too
saying.
much.
That should definitely have stayed because a lot of
Mhm.
people play Ray talents, and it's like none of them are very specific on what they kind of do. Like, are they going to be for damage? Are they going to be for support?
I'm so glad that you
To
said that because that's sorry to cut you off, but that's actually what when you came back, that's where we left off because I did say
Yeah,
Ray deserves her own episode that we could go in on only
hmm
because no one ever specified what talents for what everyone. I just said everybody has a different idea, a different perception on how to play Ray correctly for heals versus damage. That could be a
yeah.
beautiful episode. Just saying.
hmm
All of the talents can be used for each specific thing at
Yeah.
If
some
done
point.
correctly, yes. Yep.
Yeah, like the specific use cases for everything. And I know Mecha will probably go off of me on saying this right now, but for everything there is a specific use case. And
Mhm.
then there's someone who thinks they can use it a different way. Sometimes it can work out.
Mhm.
hmm
Everyone has their own view on that. That's
hmm
just
Mhm.
how it is.
I
And
personally, I will usually go focus Ray when I'm main support, just
yeah,
because I kind of like that burstiness. But I also understand that her middle restraint is also just a very good support build too.
Mhm.
Can be.
most talents for most
anti
supports can
heals.
be used for a multitude of different things.
hmm
You could go Mega Potion Pip and you could be helping the flank instead of main support.
Very true.
There's a lot of different use cases for everything,
hmm
and
Yeah.
I dislike the whole if you've got one talent that's one thing, you should use it for this one thing.
hmm
Especially
I,
with Ray, whose talents do a multitude of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will say I love that's one of my favorite things about Paladins. As a support main, it is just a wonderful place to be most of the time because the supports are so versatile. The supports are so they have a lot of depth to them. You can do so much with one character. I feel like the supports I think are the best design class in the game.
Agreed.
And I know sometimes they can't absolutely be overpowered and oppressive, but
Mhm.
I do think just like they have a lot of depth to their characters and they're just really fun to play and there's so many different playstyles you can do. And I think they really popped off with
true.
that one.
I
I
will
They're all
say
pretty.
in regards to that, sorry, as in regards to that, as someone with four different accounts that are all brand new,
Mhm.
because I'm very special and I need more than one. Every single time I queue into a game, especially on my three most recent ones, there is always a support who does not know how to play as a support.
A hundred
Having
percent.
a tutorial that targets all four classes and
Oh
shows you
yeah.
how to play all four would
Yes.
be multitudes better.
True.
Oh my gosh, that's why I was so hoping like when we got these like teasers about the tutorial section and everything, and it's like, oh my gosh, wait, are we getting a new
Right.
tutorial? Are they finally gonna revamp the horrible tutorial? Nope, nope, just horse. Which horse isn't
Horse.
horrible, but I would have liked the tutorial better.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Before we move on to the game sense, I did want to touch on that. I have been saying that for the longest. Since I started playing in 2021, I can honestly say I learned through getting cussed the fuck out and slurred. Like, that's the fuck I learned. Like, I got yelled at for going the wrong shit. And it took me taking time out of my personal life to go watch the videos. There is no in game, in depth tutorial. RuneScape has a whole fucking island dedicated to a tutorial. I'm not saying that we need a whole island, okay, for paladins, but my guy, we do need a more in-depth tutorial.
Yeah,
Like, I just, as a new player from where I was, I keep some old clips just to watch, just to compare, because there's an old clip of me. I was playing with Kawali, and this is how I know it's old because it said Allybug instead of my other usernames that I've changed it to. It said my actual Allybug name, and I was playing Cassie, and girl, it was so bad, but no one ever, explained how to play Cassie. And this is prior to all the changes she's recently had, because she's been changed since I started, of course. Most characters have been. But you could be any kind of YouTuber, big or small. You can make the most best freaking guide. I mean, Andrew Chicken makes really good guides, but he's very numbers based, which there are people who like to learn that way, and then there's some people who like Frostfanes because he's more chill in how he explains things. Then you've got people that like Kami GG, which he renounced Paladin, so he doesn't really play that anymore. He hasn't made any kind of guide or anything like that. Which we love him regardless. He's awesome. But there's so many others, creepers, There's tons of videos. Lich also makes like really good videos. Like I've watched his videos as well, and I just feel like
Cheeky.
there's a lot of people making content for the game, and the people that have made this game, that developed this game, that fund this game, they are missing out on such a huge market with influencers. You know what I mean? And with people that are making content already for the game. These content creators are taking time out of their personal
Literally.
day to do this to make it. I think that if they were to somehow include some of that, for example, there's tons of games like Smite. There are games like Black Desert that have these content creators featured on their website, tagged
Mm-hmm.
with their stuff,
Mhm.
with the keyword. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't
I
have to
wish.
be. Yeah, dude, listen, that could be. I know that's a long shot, and we all feel this way. We all have felt this way for a long time. I think it could work, and it could help a lot of the newer players avoid less of the toxicity. I think that if we were to somehow create this wave where they would pay more attention, because as you've seen, as a community, when it really mattered, we did come together and it made changes in the game. I think if we could some way, somehow get to that point, a lot of the toxic players would literally wean themselves out. The game would fix itself. I mean, there would still be some that have an unhealthy obsession with the game and want to do whatever, but that's fine. Like, the good always outweighs the bad, and I do feel that way. So that's something I wanted to include before we jump into game sense. Anybody else want to jump in off of that, or are we moving on?
I know I would. I want to say that like with Paladins, the way that it is right now,
Mhm.
it's literally the only thing keeping it alive is the community. They don't have a lot of new players coming in,
Mhm.
and for that reason, I think that like they need to. That's a strength, and they need to lean into that so far. So I do. I think if they like hired content creators to make tutorials and like
Mhm.
hired people who are really good at specific characters, make things for specific characters, that would just be. I think that would be such a great way to do it because it would not only just like help people learn how to play the dang game, but then it would
Mhm.
also like include the community and like just feel have a lot of good collaboration going on with that. And I think that's
Mhm.
something that they try and don't do too well. I've heard iffy things with the community Discord and the
Mhm.
partner program and everything going on. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like
Same.
there's better ways that they could go about these sort of things.
100%.
One thing
Me
I will say
personally,
too, though, just since you brought up Smite, is we know Smite 2's coming out soon. If that does go
Mm-hmm.
good, it could potentially do good things for Paladins too. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason that a lot of people that like come from Overwatch that try Paladins out and just it doesn't click is a lot of what I hear is it just feels very clunky. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like smooth. There's a lot of bugs, y'all know.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I
There's a lot
don't know.
lack of polish.
There's
Mhm.
and on top of what y'all have already mentioned too is how they don't set you up for the game in any
Yeah.
sense. There's so
Mm-mm.
much stuff that they just don't go over.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Cauterize, diminishing returns,
Yeah.
all these different things that like really play a big impact in the game, and a game that's very like heavy on the customization and leaning into that.
Mhm.
You gotta tell people about it. You can't just like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, so here's our game, play it and figure it out.
Word. It took me 2 years to fully like grasp everything to its core, and I still don't know it all.
Mm-hmm. What were you gonna say, Super?
Mhm.
I was just gonna say one of the biggest things with Paladins right now is the budget surrounding it. That is one of the
Mhm.
main reasons they cannot do anything with content creators. They
True.
cannot afford to pay them. And it's
Yeah.
all fine and dandy saying that like, oh, it'll be volunteer things, and them being all right with that, and the like content creators being all right with that.
Right.
But from a business perspective, even doing something like that, they've still got to have the developers work on it, and taking them away from doing whatever they're currently doing to progress the game to
Yeah.
work on something that's functioning to them is currently not worth it because it's just like it's so much work they have to put into it. As if that's sarcasm, considering the game's so old you can barely work on it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
It's
Yeah.
No,
just like,
that's what sucks. They're in a loop where it's like we don't have money. In order to get money, we
Mhm.
need more players. But in order to get more players, we need to spend on advertising. But we don't have the money to spend on advertising, so we can't
Mhm.
get more
Mhm.
players. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And that's why I'm really hopeful that like Smite 2 kind of kicks off and like actually does really well.
Mhm.
Maybe a little over hopeful for it, but
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that it does kind of bring back a lot of the community and more funding because if they reach their goal and maybe overfund a little bit, it is high res. They can move some of that funding over to Paladins and maybe
see,
make some
I
better
don't think
changes.
they will.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they will
I
either. Like I said, I'm trying to be
Yeah.
over hopeful.
Yeah, and that's why I created this
Personally,
though, because I
even
wanted everyone to talk about this. I love this because it's something that a lot of us we all think about, and it is talked about already on through text. We've seen it online through threads and whatnot. But just having this conversation with no pressure, there's no toxicity. We're just laid back talking about it. I think it's
Yeah.
important because whether we like it or not, they're gonna see it, they're gonna hear it, they're gonna. It's something they've already heard. I mean, millions of times. So why not millions more until something's done? What were you gonna
Hmm.
say, Super?
I was just gonna say, personally, how I look at it is, no matter how Smite does, they're not gonna think of Paladins. The CEO of Hi-Rez, I believe it was, has already put on Twitter, like, sort of baiting the Paladins community into thinking that there may be another Paladins too in the
Hmm.
future. I highly doubt it will ever
I'm
happen
not holding
purely
my breath.
because of how kind of dead Paladins has become over time.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing keeping it going is the small community, to the point where I I'm pretty sure most of you have heard Gigantic, which was released a couple of days ago.
Hmm.
The community's already bigger than what Paladins is.
That's wild.
And that was
Dang.
a game that was dead and has come back. And it's still barely bigger, but it's still bigger than Paladins.
Yeah.
I understand why, but at the same time, it's gotten to a point where the game's kind of just naturally dying, as I personally believe it should. The developers are keeping it going when there's no need. It just let it die.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Every
get that.
everything comes to that point, and personally, Paladins has come to that point. It's
May I
so
say,
old.
just in contrast to what you're saying, because I do get that, it could be worse. I don't know if you've ever seen the Dauntless live streams.
Mm.
Because I came up on Dauntless. I got to, and I'm not even at a big level either, but I got to my first 1K off of Dauntless during the pandemic and even after. But it died shortly after the Dauntless community. Like, I mean, there's sometimes I'll get up in the morning and I go to like watch someone. There's literally only 14 people.
Mm.
Maybe.
It
The
definitely could be worse.
it could be worse. And I'm just saying, like, that's where the potential that I do see in Paladins, and I see that there's effort, there's potential. There's obviously things that are out of the developer's control. I get that. But I also do see what happens to companies as a whole from a business standpoint. We're talking aside from personal, feelings or gains. From a business standpoint, when the community overtakes things. For example,
Hmm.
uh, I forget what the name of the company is. I think it's Monsanto company that was releasing like all the shit into the water or whatever. It was like a factory. A lot of people were getting sick and they were getting poisoned there, and enough people came together like with the news and stuff and made enough complaints. Now obviously that's a whole level of like more seriousness, but I'm only using it as a comparison because that happens still to this day with big companies that enough people, I mean, what was it, like Wendy's, I think, or Taco Bell, they had took an item off the menu and enough people like,
Mexican pizza.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And Doja Cat made a whole fucking
Yeah.
like thing on TikTok for them. So it's like
Mm.
I could see it. And I mean there are a lot of things nowadays. It's just first of all, if an influencer can shake their ass for 2 seconds on TikTok and pop off, Paladins can invest 2 seconds. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to have an advertisement fucking fun to run a TikTok for Pallies that is actually
Okay,
entertaining and funny and maybe creator funded. Go ahead.
I have thoughts on this.
Mm.
I don't know how you guys feel about Cryptech, and I'm not gonna get into like, oh, blah 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 about such a person because
Mhm.
we're not here to hate, we're here to
Mhm.
talk.
Yeah.
But personally, Cryptech, in terms of the job, they are not doing it.
I've heard that
There
from
is
a lot of
so
people.
there's a lot of people who feel the same.
Yeah.
I believe the name was Romanova. I'm not sure. I never really knew
Remanuva,
them.
yeah.
I was kind of new to well, not new because I've had my account since 2016, but
Yeah.
I was just getting back into Paladins. I didn't really know who they was,
Yeah.
but I know that they did a lot more than Cryptech, and they've put a lot more effort into their job. And personally, Cryptech is not doing theirs, not to what the community needs from them.
Oh yeah.
They're
They
doing it
left
to
a really
what
big shoe to fill, for sure.
they're they're doing what high res wants from them, and not what the community needs from them.
Yeah.
There is so much more they could be doing on TikTok, for example. They could create clips on TikTok.
Mhm.
I
I
will say
have
they did try to make a Paladins TikTok and it got banned for some reason. It was alive for like 3 weeks ish.
Oh.
That was one
Oh.
of their first
That's
No
followers.
something
way.
they need to work
Wait,
on
oh,
then.
I didn't know
Yeah.
about that. That's
No,
actually so
they did.
funny. Because I was
It
gonna
was
say
right when
Paladins
Mix
does
was
really
being
well on
released.
TikTok. Like the few
Yeah.
Paladins clips that I've posted do really well. And not only that,
Wow.
my TikTok, the one that you can have on your desktop, your live studio, I have gone
Mm.
live plenty of times while I'm live on Twitch playing Paladins, and the views are insane. Like there's
Mm.
not too much chat action, but like some of those people are trickling in through there, like to my Twitch and following me and even
Mhm.
getting to my YouTube. So like I am getting traction from it. Like it is, there's still potential because it's a lot of Overwatch players or people who play a game
Yeah.
similar to it that are seeing it. So the interest, all I'm saying is, with the new generation, there's potential. The interest is there. Like I don't know why they're not jumping in on that, but they're lacking. And I was a double major. I just didn't get to graduate because I didn't have the monies. So I'm talking from a marketing standpoint. I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff, and I see a lot of missed opportunity there. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Like they,
If
yeah.
if the Paladins TikTok got banned, they need to work on why it got banned, get it
Mhm.
unbanned, and work on
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah,
Just
that
make a
could
literally
new
the
one.
save
job
Make a
to
it.
new one.
manage them.
Make a
Mhm.
No,
new
'cause,
one. I
like,
don't think it would be bad.
Right.
no,
Or
I'm
leave hard.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to like
Yeah.
shit on bloody Cryptic or anything, but it's quite literally their job to deal with these things, and they're
Yeah.
not dealing with it.
Yeah.
If
Right.
the
Like
Paladins
their
Twitter
presence
got
as
banned,
well.
they would deal with it. It's their job to deal with it. Why aren't they?
Yeah.
Also, I
Yeah.
will say though, I do think that it's kind of strange to me that the job of social media manager and community manager has fallen on to like one person. I feel
I
like those are
agree. Those are two
they're
different
distinct. They're
jobs.
similar, but they are different jobs. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Like yeah, they're distinct, but they're different jobs. And
Oh,
I don't think that's a
Any
smart way to go
gaming
about it.
org, I'm gonna tell you right now because I've been a part of three. Any fucking gaming org, you can go to anyone right now. Those jobs are given to two different people. Very rarely do you see
yeah.
it given to one person. And I'm glad that you brought that up because as a marketing nerd, as I just said, that has always kind of like I've question marked it, but again, I don't know them. Again, I can't speak on that. They've been nice to me anytime I was involved in anything. And to be fair, I'm not being biased because I was featured in the newsletter one time. I was shocked because that was the first time I'd ever even gotten any kind of attention for my art. Because I don't do it for the intention of getting in there. I do it for
Hmm.
literally the people requesting me to do their favorite champions just because it's for shits and kickies. Like, they like that. So, whatever. But me personally, I wouldn't have even known that they were that level of that. Like, I would have never known that had I not got that because it's not like I found out through them. I found out through my homegirl, through my mod. Priscilla woke me up with that text. I did not get like, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. You should reach out to the people and be like, hey, not even that. Ask first because I wasn't asked. What if I didn't want that? I like that and I appreciate it, but what if I didn't want that? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't. That's another thing. Like these are things to think about when you're in that position. And I don't know if like no one just didn't tell them or what. But again, we're not ragging on the one person. I'm just saying like from a person who has been a part of gaming orgs, I've left them. You know why? Because I value my name, my brand. Like bitch, I'm Allybug. I'm not gonna get caught up in anybody's whatever. And it's like before I ever associate myself with another gaming org or any kind of game or partner program, like you need to have your shit together. It does not
Hmm.
make you look good. From a business standpoint, that doesn't no one's going to want to play a game when they look at you as a company or they read about this or they see your social media presence and they don't understand it. I'm not going to
Hmm.
buy a
Hmm.
product off the shelf if I don't understand what the fuck it does. You know what I mean? I've
Hmm.
turned
Yeah.
down business opportunities on Twitter and now I'm just ranting cuz like it bothers me that I don't have a piece of paper to prove that I could do that job. I'm not saying I could do the job better. I'm just saying I understand the ins and outs of it. And it
Hmm.
aggravates me that there isn't much of a, hey, we're looking for within the community. I think that there's a lot of beautiful, amazing people in this community, both in the art, in the music industry, in all kinds of stuff. I mean, Wendy, I knew Wendy. I don't know what her actual name was, but that was like a part of her username. But this really cute Asian chick, she was so nice. She was really good at the game. And she was a voice actor. She still is. I don't know what name she's going by now, but I really wish they would have like used her for some of the voice. You know, like there's just a lot of people in the community that go unnoticed and don't get the attention that they deserve. That's what I was talking about earlier with like involving creators. I'm not just talking about streamers. Like I'm not just trying to self plug. I mean like everyone, every single person that if you're an artist, a musician, a designer, anyone, like if you could fill some shoes, like why not start a fucking not a partner program, but like if you don't have the money, fine, but do like a internship or something. You know, like something to provide some kind of value into the game, like input output. Give people a
Hmm.
reason to talk about the game in a positive light. Now I'm talking as if I'm somebody's publisher, right? Now I'm thinking like I'm Kim K, right? Like her momager. These are things that they're doing. Why do you think idiots like them got fucking money and are famous in the first place besides fucking showing pussy on the internet? Like
Mhm.
you need people, good people, to sit around a table and really formulate what is working, what is not, and stop repeating the shit that's not working. Like Devora trying to flank left all fucking game last night. She got her shit rocked by Shaolin repeatedly, and I clapped this pussy a few times as a tank. Let that sink in for a minute. Like,
I really don't want to let that sink in. But I do want to say,
mhm,
in terms of like the two jobs being separate,
mhm,
that usually is the case. However, the
mhm,
Paladins community is so small that doesn't need to be the case anymore.
mhm,
I understand like wanting to keep the community and the socials separate.
mhm,
However, when it gets to a point where Cryptech isn't in either, and they
mhm.
just do like the bare minimum, having
Hi
another
D.
person to manage one just becomes kind of useless because then they're paying someone extra coming out of the funds for Paladins specifically.
Right.
And I this is going to be like a little bit more personal in terms of like Cryptech and such, but I messaged them on Twitter almost a month ago and they still haven't opened it.
Dang.
So it's like
Yeah.
they're not really doing their job.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what I'm saying. We
But
need the
they're not
trust.
open
The
to
trust needs
social
to be
media.
there.
And it can't be there considering they barely do their job.
Yeah. That's
And I'm
what's
kind of
hurting them.
speaking on behalf of most
Welcome
people at
back,
this
Grace.
point.
Yeah. I've seen it.
They're actually
I've
barely
never
doing.
understood where that feeling comes from, but hearing all this, I get it now. Cuz I don't
They're
really pay
really good
attention
when
to
it
it.
comes to responding. When they
Yeah.
respond, they can be
Yeah.
really good. They can be like, so there is certain situations where they kind of put the blame on someone else within their team.
Oh, I
That is
remember
not
the guy that quit and like was like, "Don't fucking play the game." Like, I remember that.
like
Oh
I
my
the
gosh.
thing.
remember that shit, and I remember being at work seeing that, and I was like, "Oh
That
shit!"
was
Like, but
that
he's not
was
wrong. Like, I get it. But my nigga, that's your job. Like you chose to
yeah.
do this. You could have
Yeah.
worked for anyone with the kind of because he was then bragging about all his. Well, I'm certified in this, and I got okay. You want a fucking peanut butter cookie? What the fuck? Nobody cares. And I'm not
You
even
want
trying to be
a
a dick.
cookie?
Like I'm just being. This is me now. Now we're switching off the professional because again, this is our community episode, so it is gonna run a little longer, and it's just us talking. But I'm sorry, you got a job, like you chose to do this. You know, you're not a person flipping burgers, bro. You're out here being a whole fucking game developer. You're getting mad at the community. The fuck? Like they're giving you feedback. That's what you're supposed to. You're supposed to listen, my guy. Like, you know,
Right.
and then these are the same
Like,
people that don't play the game. So, of course, you're going to get roasted. Like, I get
Mhm.
it. You work on the game so much you don't want to touch it. But in order to understand the game you're working on, would it not make sense? If you're proud of the job you're doing, Kaden, close the door, please. Thank you. That's my only issue with that. I understand what you're saying about them not doing the job because I wasn't trying to go down that route because we could really go down that route. I've seen it and I've ignored it. I mean, the community in a way has even pushed away great people like Cyberball, you know, out the window because they, they've shared their beliefs and people just didn't receive it well because they're friends with the devs and they're friends with so and so and they're friends and this person is
oh my god,
you
don't
know
get me started on
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna leave it at that,
I,
but that's what it's. That's y'all get it.
I'm
You're.
sorry, but I need to get started on this now. The Paladins game channel, they tried to get community people into it, and
Mhm.
then they chose someone who was barely known in the community, but was friends with someone already on the team.
Oh God.
I think you already know who I'm talking about. They
Yeah.
got on that team because of that. There was
Mhm.
so many content creators who was interested in that position
Mhm.
and didn't get it because someone who was barely even a content creator got it due to personal connections within that team. And that
Yeah.
was utterly disrespectful to the community. There was so many people who wanted to do that, who
Yeah.
had a following and had the ability to do it,
Mhm.
and they would not let them. I am not surprised that channel went downhill
Yeah.
very quickly from.
Yeah. I
And
know
also
what you're talking about. Yeah.
I heard that like the way it went downhill, the final closing, there are some just issues with that. I've heard
Mm.
from some of the streamers that just like there was some contract breaking almost, not directly, but it was like they were promised this duration of the channel, and then it
Right.
ended before that duration was completed.
Right.
That's mainly my point.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
still talk to some of the streamers from that channel, and one of them
Hmm.
being like my absolute favorite. Literally the person I learned Ying from. I won't name names, but this person, I admire them so much because they were not only very informational about the character, but they were very like professional, even when people were being absolutely disrespectful to them on and off of their personal channel and on the main channel. And just to think that that's not something that's they're getting, you know, rewarded enough to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy to me that you can just up and cancel something or be done with it and not think about how that's going to affect them or their following or the people surrounded around them. I mean, that's very, very inconsiderate and I agree, very disrespectful. So, but anyways, this is getting long, so we're gonna stop at this. I think this deserves the whole. I think that deserves its own episode. I think we could
Definitely.
we could definitely we need a I need someone writing this down. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I didn't change the title. Hold on.
Okay, so I believe there's like sort of work bots around that join a voice chat and make notes based on what's being said. I think you should look into that for next time.
I'm sorry.
I don't know whether it's available on Discord completely. I've not
Uh-huh.
looked into it at all.
There's a
But
bot.
there should be bots that make notes based on what's said.
Ooh.
Kind of like AI, and it'll write
Yeah.
down the notes that are
Yeah,
said.
we have one of those
And
at work that do that for
I think you
us.
should definitely look into that
Oh,
for next
yes.
time.
Yes, yes. I like that. Put that in the chat, like the actual just the stage that we're in right now, just so I can have a mental note to go check it and research that later. Cuz I would love that. Cuz I'm trying to, but it's like so much we've talked about so much that I'm like not I know I'm missing some stuff. Um, Let me just title this the community episode so that people know it's everyone's welcome to speak on it. The last thing we're going to cover is game sense, and the reason why that's those three particular that I chose is because these are things that the community actually, I think there was about 20 votes in total on the final day. 20 people voted on what they wanted to, for us to discuss on our next episode, which is this one. And Game Sense was the third most voted one. Well, actually, it was a tie between strategies and Game Sense, so I included them both. But Game Sense, and that seems to be something that I had met some new Overwatch players that I think it was off stream, and I ended up being friends with them because I was like, "Who the fuck is this?" And my friends, they invited me to play off stream the other day, and I found that so interesting because I'm like, imagine remembering like this was fucking 2 weeks ago. But anyway, like they had asked me about like why is the Game Sense seem like it's harder to get used to, I guess, on this game. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he was telling me, like, with some of the aerial champs and the flanks, even though they have similar, characters in Overwatch, I guess the way certain champs can move around and the mobility and the things they're doing, he was having a hard time tracking, I guess, like specifically Maven Eevee and Vatu. And I'm like,
Hmm.
that's common for people that are newer, especially if that's not a character you're used to going against or dealing with. And I mean, it took me forever to get to a point where I could actually track an EV. I will admit, like, for a while when I was newer, I didn't do any of the aim lab stuff. I did that my second year of playing Paladins, and I noticed it helped me a lot. So just any kind of tracking training, I think helps with
Hmm.
that. But what is your stance on game sense as a whole, regardless if you're newer or intermediate? Do you think it's important,
Right.
and if so, why?
Can I just say, based on that, I really kind of dislike when people come from a game like Overwatch
Mhm.
and then compare it to Paladins. I understand why they would,
Mhm.
but it's two separate games and it should be treated as such. There's a lot of crossover in terms of like champions with abilities and such,
Mhm.
which is to be expected in games that are so kind of big and very similar in certain ways. But at the end of the day, they are still their own games. They play
Mhm.
differently overall, and they should definitely be like not in their own categories, but they should be treated as such.
I agree. Yeah.
And
Mm.
you shouldn't like rely on Overwatch muscle memory to play Paladins
Mm.
because there are some things are similar, but some things are so different that will get you like losing games, and you'll get really
Yeah.
frustrated.
He was, and because I thought it was, I was like, why are you asking me for any kind of advice? Because I'm like not the best player. But I just thought it was funny that he was genuinely frustrated. He was like, I hate these characters. They're annoying. I was like, well, yeah, everybody fucking hates a character in a game, but they're easy to hate because they're just fast, but when you nail down the
Yeah.
basics, because I noticed like with those kind of champs, I got better at tracking them simply because when you play them yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you can predict where they're going to go or what they're going to do. You can predict if they've used their ability. Not all the time, but a lot of because you're gonna have times where you're wrong. I've lost a 1v1 because I thought they were gonna do something, they did the complete opposite. So I get it, but do you feel like the game sense is important to understand or try to understand if you are coming over for a game like that? How important do you feel like that is to know or try to know? Because I agree with what you just said. Like being stubborn
This is
is going to make you
kind of
lose the
like
game.
where the tutorial would come in.
Mhm.
They definitely need to include things like that in
Exactly.
the tutorial.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like having so when you queue into Siege, I feel like having the option to randomly choose a champion and have that like enabled or disabled in order to learn specific champions.
Mhm.
You can play a random champion. You may get someone who you've never played before, but you're learning them. That's the main point. You get to learn how to play them, learn what to do. It's kind of like shoving you into the deep end. If that's how you learn best, you have that option. You don't have to use like a third party website to get someone to play.
Right.
I would appreciate an option like that, which I know personally, as someone who did game development in college, it would be a very easy thing to implement.
Mm.
I
Literally, it should take one of the devs less than 1 day to implement it.
Dang.
Or
I think
actually, with no bugs, by the way. Sorry.
I I think the biggest thing with game sense is just knowing is honestly like in this game unfortunately you do have to teach yourself, but the good news is that I mean a lot of the champions abilities do have some decent descriptions on them if you go
Mhm.
into the advanced tab and actually read it. I remember seeing on Reddit this one person was complaining about how useless Vora's alt is because all she does is a little dance and then strikes for like 1000 damage, and it's so stupid and so awful. It's like, did you read the ability description? Did you read that it's an execute? Did you read the ability
Why are you
description? I beg
executing
of you,
people that aren't
read the
low?
ability description. So many things, so many problems would be solved if people just read the ability
Stop. Please tell me
descriptions.
you're memeing.
To
No,
be
dude.
fair,
I'm not. I'm
It's
not. I
not.
can find the screenshot, I think.
I do want to
Please.
say, sorry about that. I do want to say the the short description does not mention the
Life's a
percentage they need
masquerade,
to be under,
and
and
everyone
that's a
Mm,
has
massive issue.
masks.
That's
agreed.
You
Oh,
have to go
yeah.
to the
that's a big part they
advanced
need
to
to
be
fix.
able to see that it's
Yeah.
you
Oh
get a
yeah,
60%
executing them if they're
movement
low
increase.
health. That's very vague because you're not
Yeah,
accounting for vet, you're not accounting for extra heals, you're not
Hmm.
accounting for any of that. So, and that's
I will
something that
say
they don't
though,
talk about.
that's something that annoys me so much is when people like log on, get on a new character that they've never played before, don't look at any sort of abilities or whatever, just play them blindly, and it's like, oh, this character sucks, I hate them, or like, it's like bestie, read. They put the information there for a reason. Like, I do agree. Yeah, I think in that specific
I
instance
think
with
that's what I
Vora, you
said in my
should have
damage
that.
video I'm editing. I literally there's a section I think it's like 18 minutes in and I'm like read the fucking description. I was like
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
sentence where in my video I'm literally like half of Gen Alpha can't fucking read.
see, my biggest issue is if it's a short description and it says if they are
Mm.
low health or anything like that,
Mhm.
or if they're X whatever, then it should say specifically if they are under 40% health
Yeah.
and
Mm.
Yep.
moral.
It
Like
should be specific.
specifics are needed.
Yeah.
I think that
Um,
when you're hovering over sorry, Justin, go ahead.
oh no, you're good. I was just gonna say about game sense.
Mhm.
It's something like Super was saying. You just have to learn. You have to build on it. This game doesn't teach you very well.
Mm.
You just kind of have to. I think one of the best things you can do as a new player to start is check your scoreboard throughout the game. The ones that
Mm.
don't ever check the scoreboard are the ones that don't know how to counter build for items and such. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
if you're saying play Nando and you're starting off with Haven and Rejuvenate, and you see both of their damage have already picked all four items and they don't have record. That's the perfect opportunity to get some Guardian. You're just going to be this massive shield they can't take down because nobody chose record and stuff like that. Paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to those little
Mhm.
things will really kind of go a long way.
Well,
If you see that one person has Unbound or old school Rezo, as a Torv, you probably don't want to focus them with your beam. You focus
mm-hmm.
other people who don't have the Unbound. So I think
Right.
the scoreboard really tells a lot more than people know. when you're
But
starting
then
off.
also, like, the game doesn't tell you anything. That a new player, you don't know anything about the scoreboard. That's the other thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like you
Yeah.
got to pay attention. You got to like start understanding. Like, oh, why is it when I throw my purple on this person, they're out of it
Oh my
immediately?
god, you
You
found it.
start recognizing some things. Like, oh, they always have that item when that's happening. You can also click on them and read them, see what it's doing. I don't know.
Hmm.
Just
See,
exploring the scoreboard more will,
one
I
of my
think, help
big things with this
start
game
Oh my
is
understanding it.
god.
once you hit level 5, that's
Mm,
kind of it. You kind of like get into the player base now. But after that, if you go into like a game, but there's someone who's in a party with someone who's quite high level, it's kind of like 50-50 on if you're gonna get a bunch of low levels
mm.
or if you're gonna get like a
Oh,
really
right.
The
high elo
matchmaking, we
game.
have a dedicated episode scheduled to talk about that too.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention how if you kind of go against someone, if you're in a party with someone who's high elo, and you get against high elos, they kind of, in lack of other words, they shit on you, and then they do the same thing in voice chat or in like
Mm-hmm.
sort of after game chat,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like high elo people being so disrespectful to people who are new to the game
Mm-hmm.
is causing people who are new to the game to quit,
Hmm.
Yeah.
but it's also causing them to feel as though they're not going to improve because
Yeah.
they're constantly getting shat on. There needs to be some form of like, not really punishment, but they need to understand that things that they say, especially to new people who they don't
Mm-hmm.
recognize as new, it's just disrespectful. Be
I'll
nice to
admit
people.
I've been one to do that as well, and I've apologized to said people, but there's been a time where I was offering straight up just advice because they were trying to say that, kind of like Lich said, like, oh, this character sucks, but then I explained, well, you didn't buy this. I noticed in your build, like, and I don't list it like, oh, you know what I mean? I'm like, hey, I noticed you didn't buy this. I have a really good build for that character. I think y'all were there for this. It was a Ray and a Shaolin, and the Ray, or no, the Shaolin was like, shut the fuck up, bitch. And I was like, whoa! I was
Hmm.
just trying
Oh,
to
yeah. You
help.
actually were like
I was so
being real nice
helpful and I
about
was
it.
nice. I wasn't toxic. And they were so. And I looked at their accounts after and I was like, y'all been playing this shit for literally 30 hours. The fuck out of here. Like, it was, so I get what you're saying. I've always tried to,
Mm.
at least recently, I've tried to be a little nicer because I've been there before, and I remember not wanting to ever play Paladins again because I got cussed out in that same fucking way, and that's what started to push this new wave of my mindset of like I want to create content for it now for a game I literally
Hmm.
hate because of that reason. Because I remember being new and I remember how I was treated, and it wasn't nice and it wasn't fun. It took me a whole year. It like prolonged my learning process because I went through a moment where I didn't want to learn. I didn't want to progress because like, what's the point? The same toxic people play anyway. Well, then it got to a point where I got better and I was beating these people that were toxic to me that don't say shit to me now, and I run into them still. One avoided picking a character yesterday just to not play with me.
Yeah, like people who feel that they're good at the game and
Mm,
they kind of crap on new people, that's just disrespectful. People who are like maybe think they're good at the game
mm,
and they're letting other people who may be new at the game be like, oh, hey, I noticed you didn't get X item or you got X item. Just for future reference, this item isn't that good on this character. You should
mm,
look at getting X instead.
mm,
That's being respectful and you're letting them know. Like, you're not really even saying that, hey, you're new at the game. You're just saying, hey, so like, you've got this item, it's not very useful. You're
mm.
trying to help them get better.
Yeah,
If they're disrespectful to you for that, then it's just a case of, okay, right, well, I'm not going to help you then, and ignore them, but not actually say
that's a
that because then
that's
they'd be
sage.
like, start drama. It's just like,
Yeah,
you try, if they don't want it, don't give it.
we need to read Ray's message too.
Yes.
So Ray's posted when we were talking about new people coming over from different games. Said, so my thoughts on this. I feel like people who are coming from a different game, mainly Overwatch, is most keep the same game sense from those games and try to apply it to Pally's, wondering why things aren't working on said game that they came from. Which again, I agree, and we covered, and I'll reiterate, like to the people that have genuinely come to me asking not necessarily silly questions, but questions like, well, if you read this, it'll do it. Like, don't come into a game assuming you know how to play because you've played a game that was similar. That mindset to anything, including like IRL life, that's not a very healthy mindset to have about anything. You're not gonna get very far, Queen. Yeah, don't do that. I was mentioning earlier, and then I lost my train of thought, but I remembered when we were talking about this. No, new people coming in, right? Let's just say you're in the card building system. You see how like the cards get a little bit bigger. If they had some way to implement an interface that would maybe you see how the glow is like blue, the glow would change to like a yellow, and then have a like thing, an overlay, uh, or some kind of interface hovering, just explaining like examples, scenarios. In this situation, it would be good. Da 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 da. I don't know if that would just be too hard to do, but I feel like that would be a good way to educate people because if making a whole tutorial is too much, fine. Those little pop ups that come up when you're already fucking dead, my nigga, that's not helping nobody.
Yeah.
That's not helping
Yeah.
nobody. I'm dead. I got 2 seconds to read the paragraph you just put in front of my face. Like, what the fuck?
I have
Right.
thoughts on this with the card
Wrecker
thing.
can help break shields.
Yeah, go ahead. Super
Everything
I-
like that. Simple. Quick, easy read.
For the card thing, I believe when you go to the cards situation, so like you go to champion, say May, for example, loadouts.
Mm.
When you create new loadout, I feel like or when you click import or something,
Mm.
it should give you an option to look at or to create a build based on what most of the community plays for
I
a
like
certain
that
talent.
concept. I like that a
Mm.
lot.
Like
Right
So
here.
I-
Community build section in game.
Specifically-
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Specifically in
Mhm.
Genshin, specifically when it comes to artifacts, it's not the same, but it's kind of
Yeah.
similar. It'll tell you like the
Happy
top
Palito.
3
Yeah.
like for a certain thing. So, for
Something like
example,
that would
there's
be great.
abilities in Genshin, and if you want to go for, say, your ultimate, it'll give you the top cards you should use for it in a loadout. But having things like that based on talent and being able to make a build based on what the community uses the most for
Yeah.
certain talent would just
Mhm.
be so much better for new people than saying, right, you've got 5 cards that you can pick.
Mm.
You've got 15 points, which I
Right.
didn't even realize until I started making it,
Same.
and being
Same.
like, all right, how do I
Struggle
use these 5?
This is too
Because of
overwhelming as a new
health
player. Like when I first started looking into creating card builds, I agree with you. I looked at this and was like, okay, but when I because there's been times where I made a build and someone was like, well, you would only use this for this situation and we're not in this situation. It's like, well, how the fuck would I know that if I was due?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you.
Big thing as well is there's health cards for pretty much every champion. New people are going to see that and they're going to be like, oh, it's a health card. I need to have that
Yep.
maxed out.
Yep.
That's not always useful, and there's nothing saying, oh, hey, by the way, health cards, they're not that useful on certain situations, most situations. Having it at 1% as a filler card is much better, but they don't talk about that.
Nope.
Mhm.
I had to learn that through self whatever and people yelling at me
Yeah.
as well.
And the healing cards, they don't talk about that either, and it's just like heal for an additional 80 with 9 lives. Okay, have that at max. Oh wait, not that useful.
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't mention it,
Yeah.
and there needs.
It's
I
again,
feel like there
there's-
needs to be an entire tutorial based on cards.
Yep. We
Yeah.
have a whole episode planned for that too. I knew what Super's
There's
talking about.
so many, so
agree.
many different things in this game where it's just so confusing.
Yeah.
There's nothing about it, and new people are very deterred by it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it doesn't help. You're right. Like just being toxic, which is why I have tried to change my approach. Like if anyone has ever watched my Paladins, I call them wannabe guides. They're not real guides. They're literally just me explaining scenario wise because that's how I learn. And I notice a lot of people in my streams have said, for example, Frame. I will never forget. He gave me credit for learning Amani, and I got emotional by that. Like I shouldn't let that make me emotional, but I was like, oh my god, like wow, because I don't personally think I'm that great on her, but he felt the need to tell me that because of the way that I explain, and even as like y'all have seen it when we lose games, if I'm not raging about it, I'll actually, and I thought about this, so now that we're all together, I would like to present this as an idea for future podcasts. Someone said something, I think it was Dr. Tricks. He was suggesting that we do video reviews or like analyze our games. Like, let's watch our past games or even like as we're live, if we're co-streaming, whatever, kind of like critique each other's games. Now, not in a way where we're gonna break each other down, but more so like, well, this is why we're losing, or this is why we lost. This is for this reason. Now, this is taking into consideration disconnects and all that other stuff. So obviously, we're not talking about that, but just comp builds and things like that. The situations that aren't really talked about as much, that are rare but can happen. I think as a new player, a lot of stuff was not explained to me. For example, comp vaults. That isn't something I didn't run into until a certain account level. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's like those kinds of things aren't, they're situational. And I think talking in scenario talk helps certain people learn a little bit better. I have had people come through when I'm playing Willow and I'll explain, hey, I have two versions of this build. This is why this works. This is why this works. For example, I like that Lich does that in some of their videos. Like when they're explaining things, they're like, this is how you would do this. XYZ because of this and that, and don't forget this. Like, you got to give people a little bit of everything of the puzzle to put it
Yeah.
together. You can't just be like, here's a bite. Like, that's what those little fucking pop-ups are. Here's a bite of information, and
Hmm.
we're expecting you to know all about that one thing because of that tiny purple pop-up. Like, come
Hmm.
on, bro.
Hmm.
I can't.
So based on that, with
Mm.
the whole like idea of being able to like sort of critique without being hurtful towards each other, um, I feel like the next, possibly the next community episode that you do could be where people bring like a 10-15 minute game,
Mm.
like just a short game
A short game,
where
yeah.
you feel like you didn't do that well,
Mm.
and they can watch how you did and just
Mm.
say like, so personally, this is what I would do here.
Mm.
You might work a little bit differently, and that might not work for you. That's all
Mm.
right.
Yeah.
This is what I would do. You could give it a try, see if it works better for you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I would like that. And I would like that for like everyone. And I don't want anyone, like, if you do this, like, this is something that, not trying to be like all corporate or anything, but for something like that, I would have you guys sign a consent form, because these are the things that could potentially cause drama. You know what I mean? I think we all
Hmm.
know how some people in the community can get. I've heard of a couple of people that are, they were interested in being a part of the podcast and wanting to be a part of it, and just are worried about that. I'm here to say I don't tolerate that from anyone. So I try to have a very respectful, a place of peace. Like, we all play the same fucking game. We all rage about it, but as far as each other, I like to create a space of self-respect for everyone, and make sure that everyone feels heard and welcomed and, accepted. And so I appreciate everyone so far that's been coming through, that are new, that are here, doing this. This is our longest episode. It's only our second one, but I like the fact that this felt very lax. Any opinions overall about today's episodes from you guys?
Less
I'm
about
pretty.
today's episode, more
Yeah.
about what you just said in terms of community and such.
Mhm.
And I just want to reiterate that is one of the reasons that me and Scythe or Lich get along
I
so well.
know.
Um, we whenever we play together, especially when we're in voice chat, most of the time it's off stream, sometimes it can be on stream.
Mm.
Sometimes we like let each other's emotions get the better of us and we'll say something where it's not hurtful, but we'll just be like we'll say something that's kind of frustrating in that moment and it's
Mhm.
just
I've done it.
like, oh yeah,
Mm.
well, we don't have a support and they could be on support and something like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We know and we've kind of like set it up so that it's like if we say something like that, we recognize that we've said something wrong,
Yeah.
and most of the time, if not all of the time, after the situation, we'll apologize to each other. If not, we realize that that's an issue that we've said that.
Mm.
We'll try and stop ourselves from saying it in the future. If
Mm.
we
Hmm.
do, there's usually the apology. We're very because we've been friends for a while, we're capable of recognizing that, and I just feel like everyone needs to work on that part of themselves.
Yeah.
I would like that
Being
to
able
be
to
an
just
episode,
yeah.
to be honest. I like that you brought that up as a, like, that's your personal experience, cuz here in my stream we've had that plenty of times. I mean, even
Hmm.
me
Yeah,
myself, like, I've checked myself, I've had people check me, Raze has checked me before. Like, I never ever want anyone
well,
to feel that way here. So I think we should definitely
for a,
all together have
for a
that.
content creator, it's a
Mm.
massive thing. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
a bit of backstory around me and Mecha specifically. When I went into Mecha's community, my first game on, it was when I just started playing Paladins again. I would only play damage terrorists.
I know the
Side
story.
note this story. I'd only play damage terrorists. I wouldn't play anything else. If you
Yeah.
picked like you could pick all supports, I'd still play damage terrorists. And it was it got so bad to a point because I was kind of new again.
Mhm.
People in like her party started kind of just shitting on me,
Mhm.
and I felt so bad that I kind of left her stream,
Yeah.
and I kind of messaged her and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like vanish, bye bye, um, in her chat, and she kind of realized what was happening and she
Yeah.
felt really bad, so she
Oh.
messaged me on Twitch,
Mm.
and she was like, hi, I apologize for these people. I don't want you to feel like that. Feel free to come back at any time. We can play together, all of that. And I was just like, yeah, nah, I'm just gonna vanish. Bye. Um, it was kind of like I felt really bad for her because you're a content creator. You kind of you want to have control over your party,
Yeah.
but you can't do that without making some people feel unwelcome because of what they're saying,
Yeah.
which is a valid reason. But there's still someone who's watching your content, and you don't want to feel bad. So there's like all these different things that you have to go through and consider.
Yeah.
And while they had like a reason to say the things that they were saying, it was still unwarranted and it was still kind of like mean and rude.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And overall, she was just like, yeah, they kind of like had a reason to say it, but they still shouldn't have said it how they said it. I
Yeah.
apologize to them. You can play it any time. I think it was like maybe the next day or the next week. I was playing with her again, and we kind of like started playing on our own and
Mhm.
vibing without
Yeah.
people who were going to judge us. She was
Yeah.
teaching me how to play, and most people aren't going to do that. For me, I always look at a situation and I'm like, oh, I feel a certain way, and then the next day I'll forget about it and start playing with them again.
Yeah.
And not everyone's going to do that. Some people hold
Hmm.
that grudge against that content creator because of the
Yeah.
people they play with.
It's happened to
And it's a
me. Yeah.
very, yeah, it's a very easy way to lose viewers.
Yeah.
And most content creators who are playing Paladins don't want that to happen. And it's very upsetting that that's the people who you're playing with have to cause that situation to happen, and there's not much you
Yeah.
can do about it.
Walking around eggshells. But that's the thing. Like, I have been told that I'm a strict streamer. I don't personally think so. I mean, yeah, I have my rules and I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm on mommy mode half the time because I'm always around my son. So, like, I look at it like everybody's my kids. You could be older than me. I'm mama. Like, I don't give a fuck. So, my whole thing is this is a chill sesh. Kind of like, after school sesh. Like, back when, we were in high school and, smoke sesh with your friend's house, whatever. That's the vibe that I try to create. That meets a club because I'm always playing music. It's always loud. Like that's the intention is set for it to be a party all the time here. But obviously, if I'm painting or something, it's more chill. When I'm playing Paladins, the expectation that it's high energy is there, but there are times where it's not, where it's just like we vibing. Either way, I have never tried to create a toxic environment, but there's been times where we're in a game, like you said, and things are being said. I use this as an example. I won't name names, but everyone that's in my community knows who it is. This person is mod in a couple of mutual friends of mine stream. I don't stop talking to them because of that. We're still friends. They know I don't fuck with them. There's a streamer who also plays Paladins that we're good friends. We are really close, good friends, but we love each other from a distance type shit. You know why?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because we don't fuck with. There's people in her community I don't fuck with, and there's people that in my community she don't fuck with, and I get that. But the respect is there, and if I rate her, she rates
Yeah,
me. We respect. Like that is there. So it's like it's possible. It could be done. There's just a lot of people, on some hussy shit. They want to be beefing about whatever, and it's like at the end of the day, it is just a game, you guys. Like we could love this game, you know what I'm saying? We could care
Hmm.
about it. We could care
yeah,
about the people in it. Respectfully, it does not have to take over to a point that you're saying and doing disrespectful shit or like really affecting someone's real life because of it. I was harassed for almost 2 years with a person bullying me, bringing up my son. Like that's not okay, but that happened to me, and that affected my viewers in Paladins because I had to become strict with new viewers. Only now
Hmm.
am I starting to get new people that I asked them like, how'd you find me? And they're like, oh my gosh, like you're recommended to me. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like it, as a content creator, as a streamer, for any game, for anything, what you just said, Super, is so true. And I would love
Yeah.
to have a whole episode about content creator etiquette on both sides because guys, I
yeah,
know as a viewer, not just a streamer, now I'm speaking as a viewer because I like to watch people too on my phone when I'm at work. there are things that streamers do, and I've been guilty of it in the past and I've fixed it, but not everybody, like you said, will fix that. There are things that streamers do to this day that they get away with, and I'm just like, that is not cool. There is a person that confided in me about another streamer. Again, I'm not naming names, but there is a person that was in a person's stream supporting them, and this person came to me and confided that they witnessed a situation where a person that was in that same streamer's chat was being racist towards them, and they basically
Mm.
got the green light. Like, the streamer didn't do anything. You guys,
Oof.
any fucking time you ever feel disrespected on any level, whether it's big or small, you come to me or my mods and you tell me, and that should go for anybody's stream. No one should ever feel hurt, scared, threatened. Like, none of that. Twitch is not for that. Any platform is not for that. And I think together as a collective effort, we can make it better, but it will take having that conversation. I know it's an uncomfortable conversation because a lot of us are listening to me saying this. I'm even listening to myself as I say this, like, it's me too. You know, like, we've all had moments
Mhm.
where we've
Mhm.
been a little too much, a little too hype, a little too disrespectful, and we've had to check ourselves or each other as friends. And like you just said, it's hard for a lot of people to turn that off. So I think we will dedicate an
I,
episode to that.
yeah, I will say there have been moments where I someone has like disrespected me, with like usually it is a streamer, and they have disrespected me,
Mm.
and I have gone a lot too far with it because I'm a very petty person,
Yeah.
and it's
See,
yeah.
me too.
Side note this, neither of you actually heard this. No one heard this. No one tell anyone. But I can get very petty when something goes wrong and someone does something that disrespects me, and I sometimes maybe don't actually, stream snipe them a little bit, and I can get very petty with it.
Mhm.
And sometimes I fail to see that I'm kind of like I'm going a bit too far with it because there is a very fine line between being petty and being over the top, and there's also a very fine line with being constructive and being a dick.
Yeah,
Mhm.
seriously.
And it can be very, very difficult to recognize that you're kind of going over that line until it's too far. And I know I most, if not all of the time, go over that line. Um, but it's like I'm a petty person. I don't do it if I don't think that they've done something very wrong to me.
Yeah.
And it's like I recognize that, I know that, and I don't. If it's just something minor that's just like, oh yeah, that streamer, they weren't accommodating to me, they don't really
Mhm.
talk to me, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. I leave them alone. If it's something along the lines of, oh, they banned me because I wouldn't play with them, which has happened before,
Mhm.
um, and it's kind of like, oh, well, they were playing with someone else and not me, so I'm gonna ban them.
Mhm. I
Happened
know of a streamer
before,
that
hence
does
I
that
can
very
remember that one.
frequently. Not gonna
And
name
at the
names, but
if they do that, then I'm just like,
mhm.
okay, well, if you're gonna do that, I'm going to play with you. It may not be on your team, and it may be all the time.
Mhm.
Right.
I, okay, I'm not very proud of this one, but I have made someone quit Paladins because I wouldn't stop, quote unquote, playing with them.
Oh
Um,
no.
but no, in my defense, they banned me because I stopped playing with them to go and play with a different friend. So
It's
like,
sad that you say that because I've heard of like six different people from the same streamer come to me as like, I don't want to say victims, that's a strong word, but just they all experienced the same situation and they're mutuals. Like, they watch me in the streamer and I just feel really terrible because hearing that makes me sad. Like, you don't want to feel like you're
yeah,
causing a rift. So I understand from your point of view, like, that can make you
they
feel like
wanted
shit.
to play with me. I played with them,
Mhm.
not in the way they wanted, but I played with them. Not my fault.
Toxic. Well, I think
No, but
that
it's
we
like,
should honestly like get a lot of people's perspective because I know a lot will have a lot to say about this. And the only thing that I ask is that when we do have this talk, when we do have this episode, everyone that will be commenting that you're welcome to say whatever, like, be respectful of this because we need to be honest with ourselves. Like, we've all had this happen. So anyone that will be responding to this, keep in mind that you probably have either not just been a victim of this but also caused it. And don't try to put anyone on this panel or clip any of this and try to start stuff because I do want to say that this whole podcast, as I've said before, is made for the community by the community. You know, like, we're coming together to talk about these things because we all play the same game. We all met each other
Mhm.
through this game. Like, I came in late, but this combo is very interesting. We are literally an hour and a half in, and I wasn't expecting that. Our last one was like 50 minutes, maybe, but I like this. Like, we
I
were able to. Sorry.
I do want to point out real quick
Hmm.
that while we do all have our faults and do have our grievances, I think I'm an exception. I don't think I have any negative traits whatsoever, and I am
Oh,
100%
shut the
supremely
hell up, Scythe.
perfect.
You are the negative trait.
No, I
Super's
don't.
like, shut that shit up. No,
I am
ma'am.
the I am the negative trait.
You are the negative trait.
Say
I'm
it to you
done.
before I say it again.
No, I have no flaws. 100%. I'm 100% perfect all the
Anyways,
time.
sweet
Oh
baby
my god,
angel over
you are the
there.
flaw.
Hashtag follow.
Hashtag flawless.
Anyone
But
who disagrees with me is just wrong. That's how it is.
you can't sit with us. I'm done with you,
Anyone who
lit.
agrees with you is
Re-
rude.
But no,
Mm.
honestly, like I love and adore everyone that was here today. Like this was a really good. It was refreshing because I don't think we've ever been able to really do something like this and everyone truly want to be a part of it for the main reason. And they've come to me in private. I won't say who, but there's been people that have come to me and said, "I don't want to do this because I don't want it to cause an issue." Like, why does everything in Paladins have to cause an issue? Why
Mm-hmm.
can't we just do Paladins bingo and not worry about, you know what I mean? Like, there's always the worry about stepping on toes and this and that. It's a fucking game, and we all love it and hate it. Let's all fucking talk about it. That's what it boils down to. So I really enjoyed myself. I hope you guys come through for the next one. The next one, let's see. Did you put that picture in the chat? Was anyone able to pull that up? Is it still in it from last time? I
No
wonder.
clue.
No, it's not because this is a new discussion. Fuck. I don't have it with me right now, but we have it written down. I'll have to go back. I think it's in the general chat. But I have a list of like all the different ones, so I'll probably just put it in text form and post it in the Paladin sex chat what the schedule will be.
Oh yeah, you can blame Scythe.
It's always Sai's fault. But nah,
No.
Yep.
I hope you all have a good rest of your evening. I'll go ahead and stop it here. Make sure you like and comment and share your thoughts.